Special meeting of May 10th is in session. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, our agenda is approved as submitted. Item 7A is a discussion on parking permits for postal employees.
Mayor Clark,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to postpone indefinitely discussion parking permits for postal employees to a date, well, postpone to a date to be determined
I'll second.
indefinitely.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to postpone indefinitely, which is the same effect as killing it. Discussion? Peggy?
Yes. Since I think people expected some discussion on this, I would, for the sake of those who are here and at home or see this in the future, comment on the contract that led to this discussion item, and just to make a couple of observations. I think council really struggled with this contract issue, particularly because we cut over $2 million from the 2010 budget for the 2011 budget. That included or required us to eliminate some positions on staff, to reduce some positions on staff, and nobody got any raises at all, and most people have not gotten raises for, 2 years now, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. But the contract that was proposed to us was an increase of $4,000 over the one that's just expiring, and it eliminated parking in the contract between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. So increase in cost of contract and reduction significantly of the contract, greatly impacting the use at nighttime. Anyway, so I just wanted to make that clear to people in case they had not weren't familiar with the two contracts.
Any other discussion? Jim?
I'll make a comment that I've had a discussion with a lot of the downtown merchants about this item being on the agenda for tonight, but I did tell them all that this was not a session at which we normally take public testimony, and that if they want to talk about parking issues with downtown, that next week's regular council meeting would be an appropriate time to do it, either as an organized group under scheduled or as an unorganized group under individual comments if they want to make them.
Okay.
And let me ask the city manager, they have to schedule, if they want to schedule an appearance, there's a certain amount of lead time, and I forget.
Well, we like to have people call the city clerk before your agendas go out on Thursday afternoon. So
probably
it's not absolute black and white, but that's just preferable so that she can show people what's going to be coming up. So if they want to be scheduled, they should call Wendy Hefner by, say, noon on Thursday and let her know they want to be scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the motion is to postpone indefinitely the discussion of parking permits for postal employees, which has the effect of killing that. Council ready to vote? All in favor of postponing indefinitely? It's 7-0. Brings us to item 1B, review proposals for city manager search firms.
Okay, Council. Eric Von Savage, who's our HR director for the city, has been handling this process for you, and he handled sending out the RFP. He's received, I believe, 13 proposals. That's correct, Eric. And so he'll walk you through this. He sent this out for people who might be watching on TV. He sent out the background, the proposals, some potential rating material for the council. So Eric's going to lead you through this process and see if you can get an interview list for your executive search firm. So Eric, turn it over to you.
Hey. So there's a couple of steps that we can take. As Jim Woods has pointed out, we took the criteria off of the actual RFP itself, and you have that in front of you. And so there's a place for you to be able to kind of track or score each of the proposals. And tonight, our goal is not necessarily to pick one proposal and make an award, but tonight our goal is to actually narrow down your top candidates so that we can interview them on Thursday afternoon. And so if one method of deciding is that you want to try to see who everybody's top candidates are after they've reviewed and they've made their scores, we can certainly whiteboard that. And if that becomes too complicated and we need to get into a little bit more detail, then I have a spreadsheet where we can collect everybody's total scores for each of the potential proposals, and then you can pick a cutoff of a score. For example, you could pick a cutoff of 85 or 90 points, and you just want to bring in those folks that are at that point and above for interviews on Thursday and potentially Monday if we go over. So kind of a little bit of which direction you want to go. If you want to whiteboard first and see if everybody's close, we can certainly start with that as a process, and if we need to, then we can move into a little more detailed approach.
Deb mentioned that apparently there was some information later today about one of the groups, and I don't know if it was Bob Murray
Yeah.
and the
Bob
Arvada.
Murray.
Okay. And what's the situation there?
Arvada is also looking for a city manager, and Arvada actually made a selection of Bob Murray, and they've actually already started posting their profile for their city manager, so they're actually actively involved in a search for the city of Arvada for their city manager.
What's your recommendation from our perspective if Murray was one that we were interested in? Is there any, does it make it more challenging for them to conduct two searches for more or less the same job in a confined area?
Well, there's pros and cons, so I'm not going to give you my own opinion on that. But what I will...
It depends.
It means it depends.
Just checking.
Personally,
He's been mentoring.
what you'll find is you have to weigh some of your own personal values and takes on what are the advantages or disadvantages as you see it by selecting a firm that's already in the local market and conducting a search. So, for example, if you see it as that firm has been selected, they have some credibility, or they're already doing an exhaustive search, does that mean it would expedite your search? Possibly. On the other hand, does it mean that they would give you absolute, undivided, exclusive attention to your own individual search? I think they would probably tell you absolutely, but other folks might have a difference of opinion on that.
I didn't see the email you're talking about, but I will tell you that I think when you go through the proposals, you need to evaluate what the proposals are telling you to do, regardless of who it is. And if Arvada is using Bob Murray, there's a huge difference in population between us and Arvada. The types of candidates you're going to get for those two firms are going to be very different. When you're looking for somebody less than 50,000 population like we are versus over 100,000 like Arvada is, you won't get the same kind of candidates, so they won't be applying for the same type of jobs.
Peggy?
So I suggest that we start by maybe picking, each of us saying what our first four preferences, well, totals are. Not the totals, but who got our first four, each of us.
That would be my preference, is for us to, because I'm assuming that we've all gone through the rating, we've all decided, scored which of these firms are our top picks. And I'm actually hoping this would be faster than going through all 10 categories, 13 firms. Is that acceptable to council? We can try that and see what happens.
Right.
You want to do each of us, you want to do a round and each of us put a name down, top firm, and then second round?
Well, okay.
I didn't rank them that closely.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not sure that I did either, so.
Wait, you don't have your scores? I mean, I went and just looked in at who got my top score, second score, et cetera.
I have some scores,
Oh,
but then what
okay.
I did was I listened to what the mayor's discussion was yesterday, which is if I came with my top three and what I actually have is top 6, so.
In that case, maybe it's just, why don't you give us your top 3, Jim?
My top 3?
Your top 3.
Top was Mercer. Second was Murray. Third was Slavin.
Bill? Pick 3.
Peckham, Hoffman, and Anderson.
Okay. Got 3?
Yeah. Murray and Associates. Selvin Management Consultants. And, let's see, Mercer. 3.
Deb?
Murray? Slavin? And Peckham.
So that'll be 2 for Peckham in the way you're scoring it.
Bruce?
Mercer, Peckham, and Prothman.
Peggy?
Mercer, Slavin, Murray. Number 2.
Basinger. Basinger.
There's no N in it. In front of the G. Oh, the N goes in front, I'm sorry. B-A.
We know who he means
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, it's nice to remember to say it, so.
We've got 3 firms that have gotten the top votes. You all satisfied with 3?
Well, can we include the 4th one in case when we're talking to Murray, we don't feel comfortable with the...
Your question is what?
Are you okay with everyone?
Yeah, Peck came in tied for 4th with me, so I'm all right with that.
No?
I had both Mercer and Slavin in my top 6.
Okay.
My 4th one would be Ralph Anderson and Associates.
Live with everything above the line, if that's who our 4 is.
Sure.
Deb?
Yep.
Bruce? Sure. Peggy?
Let me look, I'm trying to read my little bitty print to see if there's something super negative. I gave them some low scores in a couple of categories, but
Can you speak up, Peggy? I
I
can't
gave
hear.
them some low scores in a couple of categories, but if we do the Peckham, if we do the interviews, then we'll find out answers.
What Peggy was saying, what Dr. Cole was saying, was that some of these candidates, she scored low in some of the categories.
Yeah.
But you just, I think, made your point that during the interviews,
We'll find
then you would explore those and see if they either had satisfactory answers for you or not.
Plus, I think you had some, at least 2 of these.
Yeah, my
Right.
top 3 are in there, so.
Okay?
I can look at those. Let's take those candidates, let's interview them from Mercer, Slavin, Murray, and then if we're not satisfied with those 3, go to Beckman, or Peckman.
But you have to alert all of them that you're going to possibly interview them.
We do, and we currently have scheduled, I believe, the 2:30.
Thursday.
Yeah.
2:30 to 5:30?
Go ahead. The schedule.
2:30 to 5:30 is the schedule that you selected for Thursday, May the 12th, and then as an alternate backup day, you have Monday the 16th, again at 2:30 to 5:30.
Okay. And 2:30 is late enough for you, you think? All right.
Reviewed it with Eric.
Yep.
You want to guesstimate some time slots, or notify them?
It depends a little bit about how you want to do that. They're all waiting in great anticipation to hear who will be forwarded. So the question is, do you want to do hour interviews? But if you do hour interviews, that means we'll be taking one on Monday, or do you want to try to put them in at 40-minute interviews and do them all on Thursday?
Might it be better if we talked a little bit about what kinds of things we want to ask, so that that would give us an idea of how much time it might take? And I hadn't really thought specifically of what I might want to ask.
Well, I was just going to suggest that we count on an hour to begin with.
And schedule them 2:30 to 5:30 Thursday, and then 2:30 to 5:30 on Monday, if need be. Okay.
So,
And we may go over an hour, we may take less, depending on...
so maybe it's good to allow, in terms of the schedule, an hour and a half. I mean, one at 2:30, one at 4 each day.
Well, I think we just need to notify them that we may be calling them. I'm assuming we're going to start with the slave for mercy. So we tell them that whichever one of those two Eric picks starts at 2:30, and then we tell the other one that we may be calling them as soon as 3:30. We may be calling them as late as Monday, depending on how fast we go through this.
And New Mercer is in our time zone. I'm not remembering exactly the others, so that might affect which order we call them on a given day. Do you remember?
Typically, what they've all been notified at this point, and they are aware that we're in Rocky Mountain time, and they're aware of the 2 dates that we selected and the times that they would need to make their representatives available.
Yep.
I'd like to see us try to hold these interviews to either 45 minutes or an hour. Just reading through these things, even some of them I got through a little deeper than others, but after a while they all start to say the same thing. And so I think there's going to be a couple of things between them that are nuances of difference, and it may be incumbent upon us to pull those out of the information we already have and then use that more as the fodder for the interview questions as opposed to what we already have. I mean, we've got volumes of information on these guys, and to repeat that information just doesn't seem like a good use of anyone's time.
Although I would like to hear them, I can read what's on paper, and I have. Some of the specific items I'd like to hear who's on their actual team, because some of them had a broader group, and some actually stepped up and identified specific people. I'd like to know, now that they're finalists, who would they identify as the specific folks that would be involved in the effort. Secondly, I would like to hear whoever it is that's now on the team, how they actually handle the recruiting process that's there, as well as the interview. Hear that from the people that are actually going to be involved.
You may not get that in an interview, because the interview may be with the head of the firm, and the person who's going to be doing the search on site may be a vice president as opposed to who we'll be interviewing on Thursday.
Then I would weight it accordingly.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer to talk to the people that are actually going to be, we're going to be dealing with. Perhaps what you ought to suggest to them is they can do a 10 or 15 introduction, where they basically familiarize us with them and their procedure, and then we go to questions. First?
One of the questions for all 3 or 4 would just be, what makes you guys special relative to, because I'm sure these guys do bake-off all the time against one another and these types of things. it's, you know, what is it that separates Mercer from Murray, from Slade? And I'm assuming it's sort of is going to end up being just, at some level, they're all sort of doing roughly the same kind of thing. Someone may do bits of it better than others. It could end up being a personality comfort zone issue if we're comfortable dealing with one individual more so than another. It's sort of a tandem to me.
All right, anything else?
I'd like to hear from Murray about how they handle the two cities, but I'm wondering if we ask them, that might be also insightful, probably both spellings of the word, to ask the other three how they handle if they're conducting two in a close area.
I suspect there'll be a number of us interested in Murray handling two cities at the same time, so I'm pretty sure that will get asked. All right, anything else? Thank you, Eric.
All right.
That brings us to our potentially third item.
Doug,
Yes.
Eric, you said you wanted copies of these because you need to keep these on record.
If I could collect those and only that page, I don't need anything else, just so that we have those on record.
Okay.
Just the front page?
Just the score page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the yellow and blank kind of column or score pages that you might have scribbled on or wrote your notes on and scores and things like that.
All right.
It's not going to be like a test or anything, right?
He already has mine.
Good call.
Yeah.
All right, next item is a potential executive session for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations regarding fire service contracts.
I don't know that I feel I'm ready to go into an exec session on it. And I think the information we got was preliminary. The contracts are there. The staff didn't have a chance to really dive into it. There's a study that was done that we haven't seen yet that I think may have had some of that may have had some input into the contract. So at this point, I don't know that I feel comfortable or ready to discuss anything about it.
Jim?
I agree with Debbie. I think that the staff in their report said that they didn't have a thorough analysis done on several sections of that. And how are we going to set a negotiation strategy with not having some of those answers? And those answers don't necessarily qualify for an executive session yet. So I'm not really interested in having an executive session about this topic till we get more information.
I guess, I assume we have a copy of the ESCI study, is that correct?
No.
Is there I guess it was my understanding from the Fire Protection District that we have access to that from their board meetings. Is that something?
They've not provided that, as you know, because this is attorney-client privilege. All of the material that we sent out to you was delivered to Suzanne, our city attorney.
Okay.
She indicated to me that she did not receive that. What we got was the proposed contract, and then my kind of first scoping memo that I submitted to you through Suzanne just kind of outlined that, but no, we've not seen the actual study. So let me just comment. I mean, we just wanted to make sure, since we had it, we wanted to get it to you. If you had questions, certainly, as Ms. Brinkman said, staff has not had a chance to vet this. I'm thinking it's probably going to be at least several weeks before, as I indicated in my cover memo, the finance team, as you know, is fully immersed right now in completing the 2010 audit. So we've got a lot of analytical work, but we've not received the study. Yes, sir.
I guess one of the things I wrote a note to myself was, even if we get the ESCI report, I don't know if there's been conversation or thought process about having the district and the ranch come in and make some sort of a presentation. I mean, essentially what we got at the moment is the revised contract, but
It's out of context.
yeah, the setting of context from their perspective would be interesting, given they're our partners. So I don't know if that's an entree we can make that from our standpoint, it'd be real helpful to, sit down with those guys at a table and find out exactly.
I think that's a conversation. Right now, we've, received the proposed contract. Suzanne has submitted that to you. Anything beyond this is attorney-client privilege in terms of our analytical work for you. So anything over and above that is, I think, purely a council discussion as to what else you want to do over and above our technical due diligence on the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jim and Deb that there are some significant changes proposed to the contract, and we don't have anywhere near enough information to even intelligently discuss it. The minimum that we would need is a comparison of the old contract to the new. I think we're going to need a financial analysis because there's a number of different implications in what they're proposing.
Particularly the formulas.
Particularly the formulas.
Yes.
Well, I understand that
link those formulas to their proposed definition of schedule of service or quality of service. So, I think what we need to do is instruct the staff to go off and look at the financial implications, analyze the two versions of the contract, and at the point in time when you have enough information that we can look at this, then perhaps it's time for us to get together and figure out what's...
From a staff point of view, we're perfectly comfortable with that. We just wanted, since we had it in our hands, we wanted to get it to you. And then if you had questions up front, we wanted to give you the opportunity. So that's why I scheduled it tonight. But
And we appreciate that. Sure. Well, I mean, we could anticipate, I think you can do a pretty fair job of anticipating what questions are or will be, unless you have a lot of questions around that. But,
no, I think we sort of focused in on 3 or 4 very key areas, and I think the mayor's touched on them, like the financing, the scope of services. There's some other, we're vetting some of the management issues, and so I think you saw those kind of 3 or 4 big key areas, and we'll start there, and then if you've got more detailed questions, we'll drill down.
And to tack on to what Councilmember Stallman was indicating is, without analyzing the changes that are proposed, it's either going to be obvious what the intent is or not. If it's not obvious what the intent is, then a context setting would be very much appreciated.
Okay.
I'm going to actually, I would almost throw that out as a motion, because I think there's an awful lot of value sitting down with them across from the table and just sort of hearing what they have to say, where they were trying to get with the issues, what their major concerns are, what their minor concerns are, from a prioritization standpoint. I think it'd be very, very valuable for us to understand where they're at on this thing.
I think it'd be better to go, my personal opinion, it'd be better to look at what's actually been submitted to us and analyze that first before we then determine, because that gives us an idea of what it is that we need to hear information about from the districts.
I understand that, but I guess I would maybe flip that over in that if we're going to do the analysis anyway, but if we get some feedback from them as to sort of their orientation on this stuff, hypothetically, they may have thrown a lot of stuff in here that, some of it's stuff that's really important and some of it's stuff that may not be as important. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I'm saying it'd be nice to sort of figure out where they were looking at this thing from an overall context as part of the analytical side of the whole thing.
That would at some point be interesting information. I just, my take on it is right now is it would be better for us to do the analysis because
Okay, all right.
I mean, if we don't have the analysis, we don't really know what we're looking at. I mean, we don't really have full comprehension, so it seems to me we have to have that. That doesn't preclude them doing what you're saying next, but it seems to me we have to do that until staff can get that done. We can't, or we get closer to knowing when staff's going to get finished what they're currently doing and can get the analysis done, then we can't even set a meeting with staff to have them explain things that they've done. Is that right? And then after that, it would be even if...
Then you can tell, I mean, you can decide, you could say it doesn't preclude a more public session, but you could decide at that point which direction you want to go.
All right, anything else on this? In that case, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Councilman.
And